for a Mr. Baseball remake. We should probably base it out of
Ah,
Korea and the KBO. If a team signs them and decides to put up the money, I don't think there's going to be record-breaking money. And then just KT on Hyun-Min. Oh my goodness.
Frost may never have 5:30 in Milwaukee, and traditional owner
Time to mostly blue. The sun is out.
world of Korean sports with several international.
Korean baseball has received a lot more attention as of late. You could credit part of that to the fact that it was the only thing in terms of live sports on ESPN in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. You could give credit to the fact that there are many more KBO players in MLB as of late through the posting process, but you've also got to give credit where credit is due to Danny Kurtz, who runs MyKBO.net. It offers an international perspective, an English-speaking perspective to the KBO and Korean baseball. And we welcome Danny to our program today. Danny, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jason. It is an honor to finally meet you in, I guess, online. But I know that we have some of the same friends. We've worked in the same business almost, like broadcasting, and so now it's finally nice to finally meet in person, basically.
Absolutely. And I can't wait because I've got a lot of questions to pick your brain about and a lot of things about Korean baseball as well as your website, mykbo.net. But let's first jump right into the sexiest part of what I see our conversation being about today, being the fact that there are so many more KBO and Korean players that have moved on to Major League Baseball in recent years. What's your thoughts on why it's happening more and more, and not just Korean players, but if we look at, as an example, Major League Baseball cast-offs that have come to the KBO for a couple of years, maybe less in some cases, and then have kind of reestablished or rebooted their careers in Major League Baseball. There have been a lot of those as of late as well. What's your thoughts on why and how that's happening, and maybe some of your favorite players that have been able to do that?
Sure. Yes. Well, I think it is a great thing. I've always thought that it is wonderful to see not only just the Korean players come over here and succeed with your Ha-seong Kims, even, jung-hoo Kongs. Before that, KBO maybe wasn't as well known outside of Korea. And so now that you have more eyes on it, whether that was from during the COVID years or even previous years when some of Hyun-jin comes over and then they start paying more attention to the league, then you're going to have more attention on the, quote, foreign players that come over and do well in the league. And then they are good enough to get a contract and go back to Major League Baseball. And so I think it is great for the league. It's great for the players. It's great for the fans. And it's just a win all around. And now I just want to say with, not covering, but following the league, being a fan of the league for 25 plus years now, I think technology has definitely played a huge part in that. I mean, just the fact that right now we're doing a Zoom call. I'm located in Washington State. You're located in South Korea, and we're talking live right now, having an interview. Whereas 20 years ago, 25 years ago, none of that's happening, let alone watching live baseball online on your TV screen from around the world at any time that you want is just simply amazing. And it's definitely helped get those eyes on Korean baseball players, the foreigners that are in KBO, and it's definitely helped establish the league as a very legit league. And I think I'd want to say, after talking to some people in baseball, in the baseball community, I think maybe 25 years ago, KBO was looked upon maybe as a retirement league for some of these foreign players to go over. And now look at it here in 2025, we have young guys that are coming over, playing for a year. Cody Ponce, for example, for the Hanwha Eagles, now looking to cash in and come back to Major League Baseball, and who knows how well he'll do once he returns. But I think that is a success story just in itself, saying that, hey, Korea's not looked as a place to go get some quick money and finish out your career there. It's time to go establish yourself, hone your craft, and then come back to the United States, to Canada, and just show what you can do.
looking at just some of these names that a lot of people might not realize that some of these guys did play in the KBO. But I mean, Eric Lauer, who was a big part of the Blue Jays run to the
Yeah.
World Series just recently, Eric Fetty, Merrill Kelly, Brooks Raley, that played a big role with the Mets bullpen. Eric Thames, of course, played here and then went back and hit some jacks for the Milwaukee Brewers. All the Koreans that we're familiar with, but we have a lot of these guys that have been able to resurrect their career to a certain degree. And one thing that you said actually really caught my attention, and it was technology. And we talk about we're zooming right now to talk overseas, but I think something like that is something that was not as prevalent, like you mentioned, 20 years ago, which I think adds to the comfort of perhaps going overseas. Because to a Major League Baseball player that's lived his entire life in North America, I think of the movie Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck when he's like, okay, I've got to go and play in Japan, and to them it's a joke. It's a it's a comedy movie of playing in a foreign country and all the different cultural differences. Whereas I think when we look, like you mentioned, through technology, you're not as separated from your family if you go play baseball overseas. And the modernization of Asian cities, I think makes it more comfortable to live in for those coming over and stuff. And perhaps it is a more attractive opportunity for a player that's, like you mentioned, maybe even younger, in their mid-20s, to take a chance to maybe even learn a few things, a different perspective, to hone their skills to perhaps continue a major league career.
Oh, yes. Well, I love that you mentioned Mr. Baseball. That is one of my favorite all-time baseball movies. I think it's totally underrated. And so now with all this attention on KBO and after the pandemic years, I was hoping that maybe some Hollywood director would be like, hey, you know what? For a Mr. Baseball remake, we should probably base it out of Korea and the KBO. So that's my ultimate dream. So if there's any Hollywood directors and movie studios watching this, I think they should redo a Mr. Baseball, but do it Korean style this time.
Love it.
And just see where that goes. But yes, as you touched on, technology has been huge, I think, in establishing kind of like I said, to put Korean baseball in like the forefront of some of the baseball community's minds. And so from when I started out, the whole reason why I started out my website was strictly because there was not a lot of websites or information, just basic information like the schedule, who's playing where tonight in Korea. That wasn't even available in the English language, or it wasn't easily accessible. So I started out MyKBO as a very simple, just let's have a message board back then. Forums, they were huge when I started this out. And that's where we just started. And there'd be enough foreign English teachers in Korea. That's how I went to Korea eventually and started teaching there. But there would be like, I want to go to a baseball game. How can I find out that information? Let's go onto the KBO website. It was all in Korean. They're like, I'm not proficient enough in Korean. I was adopted from South Korea when I was 4 months old. I had to learn Korean when I was 20 years old. My Korean fluency is very, very poor, but I was able to read and be able to learn enough to understand simple things as to like a team is playing here at this time at this ballpark. And I was able to put that information out there, and that was able to connect and resonate with those fans that wanted to be connected to the Korean Baseball League. And now 25 years later, we have the same thing. And now the greatest thing of happening to I'd say the pandemic is you have sites such as Fangraphs. You have multiple people following KBO in the English language, in multiple, not just English, other languages from around the world, following the league, publishing information in that. I am not the only website out there doing it. And that's been my goal. My whole goal was to promote Korean baseball and Korea and the fact that they have professional baseball, because some people have never heard of that. So now 25 years later, the fact that there's these baseball communities that are just strictly looking at Korean baseball and the Korean baseball players, analytics, they're going deeper dive than I've ever done into it. And I think that is just awesome and amazing for the community of Korean baseball. And so I look forward to the next 25 years to see where this technology, where AI is going to be bringing us, because now I will admit, like I said, my Korean skills are very rusty at times. My mother-in-law will always laugh at me when I speak Korean. But when I when I read it, I can understand a lot of the article. But now, thanks to AI and thanks to Google Translate, you can put in one of the sports dailies in Korean. You can say copy paste, put it in here, and it just reads like you're reading it like somebody wrote it for you in the English language. And so that really has helped bring understanding, I think, for fans like myself to find out more about the league and the players and all the behind the scenes stories that not everybody knows or what's going on with the league other than just, okay, this team's playing tonight and that's all we know.
As of late, the KBO has been shattering attendance records. They set a new record for attendance this year. They set new attendance records last year, and this is a post-COVID, so it's almost as if COVID ruined the streak that it had going earlier, and then now it's come back and even stronger than ever. How much attention is things like that, or maybe not attendance wise, but in terms of popularity, like, have you noticed that it's talked about more in North America? Because I see it here. You can't avoid it here because the attendance records are being broken. But I guess it'd be more from players, that have had experience here that are succeeding in Major League Baseball or in any other form. Is it receiving attention in North America these days?
Sure. And I want to say not only just the on the field everyday play of Korean baseball and everything that it's doing and breaking records on the field with their play, or even guys that are trying to come back to the United States, whether it's a Cody Ponce or Sung-Mun, maybe he's going to be posted by the team in a major league team. But I want to say that it is also receiving attention outside of Korea strictly because as the way the league has handled the pandemic back then, but then also now has exited the pandemic and now been an all-time high with fans there in Korea, but not just your everyday baseball fan, but it's striking to see the numbers that are of how many younger fans, how it trends to that younger generation, younger than me, and especially how many female fans are invested into the KBO league and how much money they are spending, and that has caught some eyes here in North America that I've at least some of the contacts that have contacted me going, why is the Major League or why is Korean baseball so popular among these specific groups of people when Major League Baseball a couple years ago was trying to get to those fans, and now obviously with what's happening with the last couple years in Major League Baseball, definitely attendance and attentiveness from fans has definitely increased. But I think I want to say Rob Manfred was over there the other year asking KBO as a league, like, what are you guys doing that is bringing these fans to the ballpark and this attention, because we want to do it. And so I think that is gaining attention from not just their on-field play, but just kind of like off the field stuff that is like, wow, you're shattering TV ratings, you're shattering attendance records, you're shattering just the different demographics that are attending your games. What are you guys doing, and what can we do to maybe emulate that here back in Major League Baseball? And so I think that's where some of the surprises have been like, oh yeah, we know about Korean baseball, we know what it's like on the field, but wow, this stuff off the field has been really impressive as well.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point that with the attendance records being broken, a large reason for that is the sudden surge of female fans. And as you mentioned, what they're spending at the stadiums as well. What's your explanation for? I've been asked this many times, and I've said part of it I think is the tickets are cheap. So if you're comparing spending money at a baseball game compared to going to a K-pop concert from a female fan's perspective, it's a much better value. I think female fans, you see a lot of these younger baseball players as of late, and maybe the female fans can kind of dream of, seeing them as heroes and fantasize about, potential mates, that kind of stuff, because they're going to have a different attraction to them. But is there anything else that you've seen for the reason of why female fans are stampeding to stadiums these days?
I'm not like I don't live in Korea. I was just talking about this with my wife, saying we have not been back to Korea for the last 9 years, almost 10 years now since I last lived there. And I think the way that it works, at least when I was like, I've lived and gone back and studied, worked in Korea since the early 2000s. And from my understanding, and maybe you can attest to this or say that I am wrong, but Korea has a very things that are popular they get very popular very quickly, and then it's on to the next thing.
Yes, absolutely. Very
Whether
trend driven.
Very trend driven, yes. And whether you're looking at the next restaurant or the next type of food that's going to pop up, or even baseball. So for now, for the KBO, my hope and wish is that this is not one of those trends where it's just like, hey, we all love KBO baseball right now, but then all of a sudden next year, a year from now, it's gone down and the attendance starts bleeding, the money starts leaving the organization communities and everything, and they move on to the next thing. And then, hey, the next thing's going to be the KBL with the basketball league or the Kovo. I remember Kovo volleyball has been very hot there, and I don't know where it is right now, but I mean, KBO was hopefully embracing this popularity and working on what, not just satisfied with what they can do with it, but what can we continue to do with it to make sure that it continues flourishing. And I think they've tried. They've made these agreements with some of the local movie theaters to show the games live, to get fans that can't buy tickets to come in. I think they're also working at it, trying to stop the black market on ticket scalping and making sure that people are able to obtain these tickets. And you made a very good point about saying why is it maybe so much more popular than, say, maybe back in the United States with the Major League Baseball. It's pricing, ticket pricing. If I don't have to spend $55 per ticket and I can spend, say, $15 US, $10 US to go to a game, I got $40 more to spend of my own money to spend on merchandise. I can spend it on food. I can spend it on whatever else I'd like within that baseball realm. And so I think that has helped maybe make it a little more accessible than to what it is right now here in the States. When I go to a Major League Baseball game, granted, I go to Seattle Mariners games because of where I'm located. They have a value menu. So it's not too bad when you buy a hot dog, it's a $4 hot dog. When you buy a soda and some candy, it's $5. But then I think about, wow, what is this costing now if I went to Korea and go to Chamcheon and go to a Doosan Bears game, Doosan versus LG, and go, I wonder how much this soda is costing. How much is this food item costing? And it is much lower. But that price point of getting into the game definitely probably plays a point into going some of these younger students. Again, I see some of the fans on TV. They're probably maybe students themselves, college students. Maybe if they're lucky, they might have a part-time job, not bringing in a lot of cash. But if you don't have to spend a lot of your cash to get into the game, then you're going to go to it. And like you said, do I go to the latest K-pop concert for 50,000 won? Or do I go watch LG tonight for 5,000 won, 10,000 won, sit in the outfield and spend the rest of that money with my friends on food, a new jersey, a t-shirt, and some cheering gear. I think that's where they've been able to find that. KBO has been lucky to find that strike between keeping it affordable, but also trendy as well. And it's a fine line that they're going to have to figure out, because I know teams are probably going to want to increase how much revenue they're bringing in. These large,
conglomerates.
They're owned by conglomerates, but at the end of the day, they still want to make some money. And the fact that they see, wow, we're breaking records at the stadiums, we're breaking records online with their viewership and TV. Why are we not seeing that come back to us? So my worry is that then they're going to start making things a little more expensive. But what is that line as how much more expensive will these fans take a ticket price versus just not attending anymore?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I don't know if I want to say suggested, but expected while doing a TV interview in Korea. I did say that with the attendance records, happening in back-to-back years, I think fans negatively should affect ticket prices to be altered for the upcoming season. I hope it's still within reason to be affordable, but should be one of the aspects that come out of this. And you mentioned K-pop concerts being in the 50,000 won realm. I think it's closer to 100 and over these. Yeah,
It's
baseball.
been a while.
Baseball tickets compared to K-pop concerts, it's probably at least 5 times more expensive. So we'll see how much tickets do go up in the near future. You mentioned Sung-Mun as one of the players from the KBO that might be going over to Major League Baseball this year. What are your expectations with him and anyone else that you see possibly being able to latch on with an MLB team for 26?
Sure. Well, I'm coming directly as a fan. Nothing, no scouting. I have no scouting background, anything. Just something as a fan. And I will say, I want to say, I read an article or AI'd an article the other day, and it was very funny how Sung-Mun, I think, was very self-deprecating with himself, just basically put it in and say, it's like, I'm not on the jung-hoo Lee level. I'm not even on the Kim Ha-seong level. I am me. I've had a couple lucky years these last 2 years, and he's done quite well for Kiwom. And he's like, basically, I gained a lot of respect for him as how he went through that to kind of keep the expectations in check. And I don't know if that's how he personally feels, but to come across in the media as to being very like, you could tell he was grounded and just trying to think, if basically it sounded like, if I make MLB and I get posted and a team wants me, great, but please don't expect that I'm going to become this next superstar like, Jung-hoo Lee and my former teammate is out there in San Francisco, versus like, hey, I'm me. If I get over there, great. For me, I think he's a solid player, and I thought it was a very correct way to look at things. Whereas, like, if a team signs him and decides to put up the money, I don't think there's going to be record-breaking money. And I think there's also comfort in that for himself, going, if a team puts up money, it's not going to be making headline news other than the city that maybe they sign him, and across the major league community, it's going to be well within reason. And I think that'll bring the expectations down for himself. And he's able to then just come over, put in the work that he's done the last couple of years, and then maybe be one of those successful players that you go, wow, we had no idea he was going to be this good. But with the proper training, with the proper diets, with everything going on that Major League can provide, maybe he will flourish over here and surprise everybody, because he's only been trending upward the last couple of years. So I just thought that was a great interview that he gave, and I think that was very well put by him, trying to keep that expectations down, because as a fan, I love seeing all these Korean players come over from the KBO, but at the same time, I'm also realistic and going, I don't know what we're expecting. But just the fact that he's being even mentioned 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it wasn't even in the realm of things. I would have loved to seen Sung-Yup Lee come over to Major League and sign a contract. I know he had a cup of coffee with spring training with the Marlins, and I think it was the Dodgers, but they're like, I don't know. But I would have loved to seen that, as I was, just getting into KBO, going like, wow, that would have been amazing to see this guy, the legend, see what he can do. Dae-ho Lee, he came over to Seattle, but it was a little later than I wish he would have come over. And so now the fact that you have some of these guys that back then, they're not even the superstars of their team, just even getting mentioned by the baseball media, by the baseball scouts is a great thing and amazing to me, because, like I said, 25 years ago, the superstar of your league wasn't even getting a look at. So now, 25 years later, not a superstar by any means for the Kiwom Heroes is now getting talked about, possibly getting posted, which is great. And it just shows how far that the league has been looked at by various baseball levels across the world.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see if he gets any offers and what those look like. Because I think we had this trend with Ha-seong Kim going over with the Padres, and then Jung-hoo Lee. More recently, Hye-Seong Kim of the Dodgers. I was a little bit surprised that he accepted the deal that he did with them. It was certainly reported that the Angels and other teams were offering him more, but he obviously, made the right decision if a World Series ring
Yeah,
was,
he gets a ring.
yeah.
So I mean, he can always, and no matter where he goes, my guess is, as you know, Korean media knows, whether he were to play another inning for the Dodgers and he were to just suddenly come back to Korea, it doesn't matter. He will be World Series champion, and he can always tout that, and he will be on every variety show just going. He could never play inning of baseball again and be like, I was on the field for the last out and I won a World Series, and they will be putting him on as World Series champion. And that is something to be very proud of for him. But I think, like you said, I wasn't sure how his season was going to go this year, but I am glad that, I'm a Phillies fan, so not glad that the Dodgers won it, but hey, I am glad that he was able to win a ring for his team, especially first year over. And so it's always fun when you see these guys, whether they're Korean players, whether it's somebody like Eric Lauer. I was gutted for him when he threw, I think, in that incredibly long game, he was out there for how many innings in relief, just pouring it in. And I'm like, this guy just won a Korean series last year with the Kia Tigers, and I was like, he's this close to possibly winning a World Series with Toronto there. And I'm like, wow. I mean, just what is he feeling? Just going from probably going, I don't know where my career is going to take me. It took me to Korea, and now he's there just throwing how many innings in the longest game in World Series history, just putting it all out there. And I'm probably like, wow, in 1 year, can you imagine this is what he was going through?
Yeah, really good guy too. I actually talked to Eric Lauer quite a bit during that Kia run when I was doing play-by-play for the Tigers that season. So I had a chance to meet him and talk with him a few times. One of the questions I was asking him was, like he seemed like one of those guys where it's like, whoa, what are you doing here? Sort of thing. Like because he had significant success with the Brewers before coming to Korea, and I remember James Nail saying, "Oh yeah, like when I saw him in his first bullpen session, I could see that it's like, oh, like there's something different about him while he was here." And he had alluded to the fact that he didn't feel that his injuries were taken care of properly, which led to his numbers going down in his last couple of MLB seasons. But it certainly seems like he's turned his career around. He was a big part of the Blue Jays, not just in the postseason, but I know I had him in one of my fantasy baseball leagues, and he definitely contributed to me, being able to place in the cash this past season. So it's great to see him resurrecting his career to a certain degree. You mentioned that Sung-Mun, we'll see what happens. And I think you're absolutely right in that it should be interesting because this is not a guy that receives MVP votes. He's been an all-star, a couple of times. So he's a solid player. Certainly back, like most of the players that have posted for MLB, whether it's Jung-hoo Lee, Hye-Seong Kim, ha-seong Kim, Jung-ho Kang, Hyun-jin Ryu, these are all players that were good from the moment they stepped onto the KBO field. So like they'd had 5, 6, 7 good KBO seasons in a row before going, whereas Sung-Mun was kind of like an average player for like 3, 4 years, and then all of a sudden, not putting up video game numbers the last couple of years, but a distinct improvement over previous years where, he's kind of seen as one of the better players, maybe like a top 10 player right now. So if he is able to get even something like, let's say, a Hye-Seong Kim got with the Dodgers. So like, even if it's a two-way contract where, you can go down to the minors, you can come back, if you're not ready, but just have a guaranteed contract of some sort where a team shows that they believe that you're a good player. I think, like you mentioned, that could mean a lot in a couple of ways. It can mean a lot in the validity of the KBO as a league, but at the same time, I wonder if it can mean the adverse to that in the sense of a lot more KBO players maybe leaving to get two-way contracts where they were a star here or a good player here, and all of a sudden they're AAA MLB, maybe, sort of like Go Suck with originally with the Padres. He really hasn't found his footing in the majors, and the one downside to that is he hasn't been able to help out the LG Twins, although they didn't need him this past year. But
Right.
I guess the one downfall could be if we have a lot more Korean talent leaving and then not really performing at the MLB level.
Yes, that is always the. I mean, that's been the concern, not only just I guess with KBO, but also the NPB league. When your guys are leaving and you're kind of draining your best players and you're bleeding players, and they're your superstars, and they're going over. Where's that leaving your league as what's the average player going to do then? And now if somebody like, I'm not trying to downplay Sung-Moon's play and thing, but like you said, he is not the superstar. Park Byung-ho, Dae-ho Lee, even Lee Yup back in the day, these guys, Kang Jung-ho, these guys were the players. Yoon Suk-min even, who did not do great when he came over to Baltimore, but he was an all-star. He was now he's a legend. Now, I mean, years later, these guys are like, oh, those guys were the top of the league. Those are the ones I know. And Sung-Moon, he's good. He's above good. He's better than good over these last couple of years, but he's not this superstar. But if he gets a major league deal, like you're saying, whether it's a two-way contract or what, it might put that in the back of some of these players' minds going, you know what? If I can just put up a few above average years here in KBO, I got more eyes than ever thanks to the internet watching me. I might be able to get that same contract. And that goes back to something I think I was speaking to a couple of my friends about 5-10 years ago when these guys started going over and getting posted. You started seeing some more of these high school players, and they were determining what they're going to do. These high school superstars coming out, were they going to go to sign a major league deal, a minor league deal, go to majors, or were they going to, stay in the KBO? You started seeing a lot more stay in KBO, and they figured the fastest way to get to Major League Baseball was rather than ride along buses to rural American cities and possibly then flame out and have to come back to KBO anyways. Why don't you go stick it out in KBO, do what you need to do, become that star, and you will get posted. And I think a lot of these guys for the Kiwoom Heroes, you've seen some of the younger pitchers for Hanwha. They decided to, you know what, I'm going to forgo that temptation of saying, should I cash in now, or I might be able to cash in 7 years from now. And they decided to stick it out, because now you see some of these guys, unfortunately, that signed directly out of high school with some of these major league teams. Unfortunately, their careers didn't work out. They got injuries, and then they have to come back. And then sometimes they don't even get picked up by a KBO team, and their career's kind of done. So it's been an interesting cycle, or the way to look at the last 5-10 years of that's been happening. And now if Sung-Moon gets that two-way contract, what's going to happen to some of these guys that maybe did not decide to go over to the United States and Canada to play in minor leagues right away, but they're just middling kind of around that average to above average KBO player right now? And are they going to be starting asking their teams, can you post me? Or when they hit free agency, you know what, I'm going to go take my stab at this, and hopefully a major league team's going to sign me. And so KBO as a league has to be worrying about that. And they're probably watching this. Is he going to get posted? Is he not going to get posted? What's he going to bring? What is he going to do? Because if he gets posted, they might have to start worrying about a run of players that are about his similar level starting to make that, desire to want to go over again. And so if that happens, what's going to happen to the rest of the league? And then we know if the league starts falling down, at least on field wise, that's going to bring you less fans, less hype around it, less TV money, less attendance money. So it could go into a very bad cycle. So I know that is one of those fine lines that the league's probably trying to figure out. Team, organizations, players, what they're going to be doing.
I think you bring up a very good point with Sung-Moon and if he's able to get a contract. But here's the thing that I noticed about that. You mentioned that a lot of the top Korean high school players, have been getting signed with major league teams. Won-Bin Cho signed with the Cardinals. I forget a couple of the names, but I know one guy got signed by the Dodgers last year. Another top guy got signed by the Pittsburgh Pirates the year before. And a lot of the more recent top high school players that have signed out of high school with Major League Baseball teams, they haven't done very well. If you look back, I mean, obviously, Chu, Shin-Soo Chu from the Mariners, and then Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Texas. He had himself a very good career. Channel
Yep.
Park had a good career with the
Yep.
Dodgers and multiple teams there on after. But outside of them, in terms of longevity and success, representing Korea in terms of, oh, here's a Korean that came out of high school from Korea, did not play in the KBO, that actually had himself a successful career. Since those two, there really haven't been many. Whereas when you look at Hyun-Jin Ryu, you look at the money that Jung-hoo Lee signed for, Jung-ho Kang getting Rookie of the Year votes. The one thing it could do with, let's say, Sung-Mun, if he were to get a contract, you could have more top Korean high school students coming out saying, you know what? Maybe it's not a good idea to go to Major League Baseball directly because there's all these guys that were my 선배s that were in classes ahead of me that haven't been succeeding. Whereas if Sung-Mun, no offense to him, but if Sung-Mun's getting this deal, then 5-6 years later, maybe it'll be easier for me to go over to Major League at that point. So maybe that's a way to keep some of the younger talents developing in Korea rather than going straight out of school, because they have lost a few of the top talents early on that really haven't made a name for themselves in even minor league baseball as of late. You look at, those three guys that I mentioned with Pittsburgh, LA, and the Cardinals, and none of them have even made none of them are in the top 100 prospects, as an example, maybe not even 200. So the fact that they're not succeeding, maybe that keeps more of the top young talent in the KBO.
Right. And so like I was saying, and obviously if you're an elite prospect, if you are the top prospect, you are getting looked at by MLB, and something like you pointed out, those top prospects are signing with Major League Baseball teams. But it's the number 2 guys, the number 3 guys that were, number 2, they're maybe slightly behind that top elite prospect, and maybe they had a scout or two from the major leagues talking to them, but then you know what? They're like, I might as well stay home in Korea, do my thing, become the big fish in a smaller pond. I get more eyes on me that way rather than honing my skills over in the minor leagues, and I am now another prospect. There's tons of prospects. I'm surrounded by prospects, whereas if you're the big fish in a smaller pond, known as KBO, maybe you have a better chance at getting looked upon by the same scouts down the road, not the same scouts, but obviously probably within the same organization, going, you know what? I was following him, and now we're going to continue following him now that he's in Korea, and we're watching him, and oh, what do you know? He became an all-star, and now all of a sudden he's going to get posted. Let's keep an eye on him versus, well, we'll watch him go over and play in rookie ball in Florida, and then he went to the Arizona League, and okay, he kind of stalled out there around rookie. He maybe made double A. We're going to stop tracking him as far. And it's kind of like those, other than the rare unicorn number 1 prospects that are getting signed for over $1 million, like the few that you mentioned, it's going to maybe make them want to stay in Korea. And I know that it's been the worry about how do we keep our players from going over to Major League. And so I have friends within the Major League scouting community. I have friends that scout for KBO teams. And it's kind of like this, they're all scouting for baseball players, but it's so funny. There's a divide going, you're stealing our players, there's our players. Kind of like that. They're not necessarily saying that, but they're like, it's come to a head now. It's kind of like, well, what do you want to do as a player, as an employee, as a family decision? What are you going to do? Do you want to take that challenge of driving around on the back roads of rural America? And if that's your mindset, you're going to sign no matter what. But if it's not, you're going to take that and go, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself to stay here, comfort level, because comfort level is a big part. Whether you're playing baseball in Korea, like you mentioned, some of the foreign players that come over there, or whether you're just coming over there to live and work as a regular everyday employee, comfort level is everything, whether that's here in Korea, whether that's here in the United States or Korea. It's all what you have comfort level. And so if you're uncomfortable at home and everything around you, you're probably not going to perform well at your job. Whether that's, hey, I'm going to become an English teacher, I'm going to become a baseball player. If you're not comfortable, you're probably not going to do well. So some of these guys that are going, I'm not going to be comfortable living with a host family, traveling hours on a bus, versus I can stay in Korea, eat the food that I'm familiar with, be around my family, be around my support system. Yeah, I might not have the signing bonus, but I could definitely probably flourish better here in Korea than I can in an unknown land. And so I think that's where some of these players are coming up through. And again, it's probably like I never being a great baseball player myself. It's a choice that I can't imagine having to choose between. It's a luxury almost, but I can also see in it being very burdensome to these 18-year-olds going, well, this is going to determine my future, because if I flame out over in the United States, I might not even get a shot to come back here to Korea to play. Nobody wants me. I know I threw out my arm and nobody's going to sign me. Or do I want to kick myself down the road going, I should have, I'm playing in Korea. This is great. But what would have been if I would have just gone to the United States? Look how well I'm doing in Korea. I could have been this next superstar. And I can't imagine having that. And so I can imagine how burdensome it is for the player. And they're young. They're 17, 18 years old. My son's 15. I can't imagine in 3 years going, Landon, you got to choose, man. God bless you with this extremely enormous talent, but you got to choose. Are you going to stay here and you're going to play for the local teams around here? Or are you going to go abroad and try to make some money, and you might flame out, but you never know. I can't imagine doing that. And me, even as a parent, going, I don't know what I do with that. So I do have some sympathy to those players that are having that. And I know everybody looks at these athletes and going, they're pro athletes, whatever. They're still human at the end of the day. Like I said, whether you're teaching English in Korea or playing baseball in Korea, comfort is what you need to have. And so I understand of that from coming from that perspective, what they possibly are facing. And so it is very challenging.
You mentioned Cody Ponce as one of the latest reclamation projects that have done well in Korea, and then on his way back to MLB. Can we look at him and say, well, there's the next Eric Fetty, there's the next Merrill Kelly, the next Eric Lauer type of player? What are our expectations for him in 26?
I think it's MLB or bust, unfortunately, for the Hanwha fans. And it is, I mean, I think he is a perfect example of somebody that a KBO team would want to sign, just knowing that it is probably for 1 year. And that's how they sell it to themselves, or sell it to the players and their agents and the families, going, look, you maybe had a rough couple years of whatever team or organization you're in. Come over here with us. We provide you with everything. You're going to be comfortable. You can have success on the field. And if you're lucky enough, you may be able to head back. And if not, what's the worst case scenario? You're doing well, we'll re-sign you. So it's kind of like, I think for him personally, I think he's going to get a very good deal coming back to the major league, to an organization. But at the same time, there's probably, I don't know, I've never spoken to him, but my guess is there in the back of your mind, you have to be going, is this, do I do it? It's just kind of like these prospects. Do I go back to the United States and Canada and play in the top league in the world with some guaranteed money, but I might not be as successful, versus I can return to the Hanwha Eagles. I can have legend-like status already. Fans are, taking. I love it when the fans show the pictures of the passports and be like, we have your passport. You're not leaving. Stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, you may not have as much money, but at the same time, you have just legend status that you may probably not going to have in Major League Baseball. Yes, you're going to be a serviceable player, but you're probably not going to be the next superstar. I'm probably not turning on my TV and watching for Cody Ponce commercials. Versus in Korea, his face was everywhere over Taejon. Like, I mean, he is the star. And I love to see the success that he had and how much happiness he brought to those Eagles fans, because Lord knows they needed it.
Yeah.
And so him and Ryan Weiss have just been that 1-2 punch. And now if he leaves, on field wise, how are they going to return? Because he was just one of those, like Eric Fetty, the successful stories. Merrill Kelly, he's a great one that I think that all players can look at that are coming over to Korea. Been like, he never ever reached the major leagues before he came over to Korea. He worked on his craft. He worked on it for many years with the SK Wyverns, or what is now SK SSG Landers,
SSG,
but was
yeah.
SK Wyverns at the time, and he worked on that, and he was able to then return to the United States. He worked on his craft so much in Korea that he's able to then be able to get a major league deal and then have success in in Major League Baseball. He is something that you would want to show to every player that you're trying to sell to come over to Korea. And these younger players, like, hey, come on over. You could be that next Merrill Kelly. And not saying that he's a superstar, but he has a very good career after returning from Korea. And I think that is something that you try to sell to these players that you're trying to convince to come over and, hey, try out Korea for a year. Could turn into 2 years, could turn into 3 years. But after those 3 years, we could send you back and you could become a serviceable major league player with success on the field, off the field, contract wise and everything. So I think that is something that Cody Ponce is going to have to understand and figure out for himself if that's what he wants.
Couple of players that people in North America might not be as familiar with just yet, but certainly will get to know over the next 4 or 5 years. Are Kim Do-young and An Hyun-Min. And Kim Do-young last year at the age of, I think it was 21, came 2 home runs shy of a 40-40 season. 38 home runs, 40 stolen bases, while hitting something like 320, 330, something like that. He was third in the league in batting at a very young age. Showed immense potential for being able to succeed in Major League Baseball. This year's surefire Rookie of the Year, An Hyun-Min, had a huge year with KT. These are players that, when I look at, in 4 or 5 years, they're going to be in Major League Baseball with $100 million contracts. And how much should North American fans get to know these guys? And what's your outlook for them in terms of their trajectory?
Oh, get to know him now. And I think, the unfortunate thing with Kim Do-young this year was just the injuries. Yeah. Just kept him off the field. So, but at the same time, I'm thinking about it, you know what? Unfortunately, injuries, but maybe it gave him a break. It gave him some rest. Because there is one thing that I don't love, or it's kind of gotten pushed out of Korean baseball, but when I was growing up watching it for the last 20-some years, they like to run, like, we drafted you, you're our star, so we're going to make you play and earn every penny of that, whether you're a pitcher or whatever. So, like, you see some of these young pitchers just getting thrown out there every day, and you're just like, your arm's going to fall off. But the coaching staff didn't care, and you're just like, okay. So for him, somebody like Kim Do-young, yes, very unfortunate about the setbacks that he had injury-wise, but my hope is that it, gave him time to rest, to rehab, of course, get healthy physically, but it just gave his mind a break and just been like, okay, this upcoming season, I'm going to get back at it again and become the same Kim Do-young that everybody knew that I was. And so he's one that was very exciting to watch when he was healthy. When he is healthy, he's incredible to watch. And then just KT, An Hyun-Min. Oh my goodness, this guy. So the only worry is his teammate, Kang Baek-ho, similar kind of,
Yep.
Back then there was a lot of this, like, pumped up everybody. It was during the COVID years. Kang Baek-ho, who is actually a free agent right now. Yep. And back then it was like, is he going to the major leagues? Is he going to major leagues? Oh yeah, we're watching him. ESPN was focusing on him. Oh, Baek-ho Kang, he's going to do this. He's going to do this. And now, unfortunately, I don't know. I know there's major league dreams there, but after some of the injuries and some of the things that have happened on the field, off the field, attitude wise, stuff like that, is he going to get a major league contract? I don't know. I'm hoping that somebody like An's watching this. He's watching his teammate going, he was celebrated just as much as I am. Hard hitter, everything like this, but I maybe got to make sure I keep my nose to the grind and just keep doing what I'm doing so that 7 years from now, I am getting those, no questions about it. I'm going to Major League Baseball. Whereas now, if you would have told me in 2020, like, when ESPN was broadcasting and they're going, well, Baek Ho-kang, yeah, he's coming to the major leagues, right? Oh, I would have been like, oh yeah, he's definitely getting looked at. He's free agent 76 years from now. Oh, he's going. Now it's kind of like, I don't know. What is going to happen to him? Because we're talking about Sung-Mun, right? Versus 5 years ago during 2020. I would have never said. I mean, if you would have said we're talking about a guy named Sung-Mun versus Kang Bak-ho going to Major League Baseball, I would have been like, what are you talking about? It's just crazy. And I mean, that's why you play the game. That's why everything happens on the field. But then there's some off the field stuff that comes up, and injuries and everything happen. But it is interesting because it's fun to talk about these players. And of course, that's why I'm saying watch them now, because you never know 5 years from now what's going to happen. And of course, there'll be a new player coming in. And so it is very exciting. And I'm excited to see how on, and with the WBC coming up, and now they've had I think Naver's been sponsoring the series versus the Czech Republic, and now they're coming up this weekend against Japan. And it's to watch these young players on an international stage, kind of gauging where are they? Where is Korea on this world stage? Back in the day, Dae-ho Lee, Sung-Yup Lee, Yoon Suk-min, Kim Kwang-hyun, those guys were leading the charge. And I think most fans knew where their level of National League team play was. Now, with some of these younger guys, it's kind of a bit, I don't know. Like, yeah they beat Czech, but yeah, I watched the games and I'm like, and I'm old, so I go back to back in the day, if this was the Dae-ho Lee led years, they'd be up 12-0 in the third inning or so. I'm just, no offense to the Czech Republic, but that's the way fans went in going with our team. We're playing whoever, we're going to destroy them. Obviously, versus Japan, a little bit different, but that's why this upcoming weekend I'm going to be watching these games, and I'm not sure I didn't check what level of team Japan's putting out there, but it's going to be a good test for these younger national team players for Team Korea to see where are we, and if they put up a good fight, great going into the WBC, but if they get whooped, it's going to be, wow, what are we going to do? We got a short time to get this ready for the World Baseball Classic coming up. And it's kind of like, this is a great barometer test to where the national team's going to look for.
A lot of people outside of Korea might not realize or remember that Korea came third in the initial World Baseball Classic in 2006. They were the runner-up to Japan. I believe that was even an extra innings in the second iteration in 2009. So they've had some very good success in the early years of the WBC. As of late, it has not been quite as successful. And as you mentioned, the players from that initial iteration have, gone on to become legends. But it just seems that more recently, I don't know if, Korean players have become rock stars in their heads of, if I'm on the national team, then, we're automatically going to do well. We don't have to earn it, but it almost seems like that. But the question then becomes the 2026 World Baseball Classic. Korea has not had the success that they had 20 years ago now, to think back how long it's been. But what do you think? What are people saying in terms of how they feel that Korea might be? And does Korea have a chance to get back into, let's say, the top 4 or so? Or are they going to be now viewed as a, 5 to 10 sort of a country in international standings?
Right. That is the question that I have personally, because I was at that 2009 WBC semifinals there versus Japan. I was sitting in the outfield of Dodger Stadium watching that. That was the best baseball game that I can remember that I've been to, and that's what made me love this international baseball play. And so the fact that they took it out of the Olympics there, but we have the WBC still, so I'm like, I love it every year, and I love that more fans are loving it every year. You have the likes of Sean Spradlin on Twitter or X now, and he always loves international baseball, promoting it, and it is great. So this next tournament, it's going to have tons of eyes on it. But as a Team Korea fan, I don't know where they're going to do. So that's why I'm looking forward to this weekend when they play Japan. Yeah, I saw what they could do against the Czech Republic, but I want to see when they go against the top of the top, the best of the best. Where are you? Where are you guys going to be? Because yeah, you have a lot of younger guys on the team, and some are just getting their first big time tournament experience, and this is great. Or big game experience on the international level. But when it comes to the WBC, I think this series against Japan is going to also help determine how many players do we bring in from outside of Korea, whether they are, the like Rob Riff-Snyder, some of the non-Korean citizen players who,
Sure.
if they don't have a great showing in these next couple international games, they may start going back. The committee may start going, well, we need to reach out to some of these players that are from basically the United States and Canada that are biracial, that are mixed
Tommy
Koreans,
Edman.
that are going, do we need to bring them back? Do we need to give them this offer and being like, yeah, we're kind of missing some pop. We need this. We're kind of missing some people in our rotation. We need this. We need a Riley O'Brien. We need somebody, that could throw 99. Riley O'Brien is that perfect case. He played for the Mariners. I think he's with St. Louis now, has it just a minor league prospect. It's kind of like, what are they going to do for this next WBC roster? So I am watching it from afar going, I'm curious how many minor league / major league players they're going to ask to do not play in KBO, and how much of an all KBO team. I think we saw that in one of the more recent international tournaments. Not great results. So now all of a sudden, hey, we need to be more Tommy Edmonds over. And then it's kind of like, it reminds me of US. So I'm a US soccer fan, fortunately as well. And I also like Team Korea. It's kind of like back in the day, I think it was the early 94, they're starting to sign all these players that live outside the United States that maybe had a parent or two that, their parent was American, but then they grew up all the time. And David Régis played in France and everything. And they started bringing all these players back, and soon the roster's like mostly of these players that nobody knew from the United States, but they got from that played their craft overseas. And it's kind of like, is the WBC team going to look all KBO, mixed KBO, half and half, mostly bringing over players from that have major league experience, minor league experience? I'm curious, and I don't even know, and I don't know how much the committee knows right now. And I think these international games, is why they had this series versus Czech versus Japan, to see where are we standing, what do we need to do.
You know what I wonder with this series? So if we go back to the history of Korean baseball, you mentioned Lee Seung-Yup before. Of course, he broke or set a new home run record in the early 2000s, and then went off to Japan because he couldn't get a contract in Major League Baseball. Which I balk at too, by the way. But I think part of the reason, him and others playing in Japan at that period, it really brought Korean baseball down a little bit, and it eventually resulted in the Hyundai Unicorns basically putting up their hands and saying, look, we can't do this anymore. The league considered contracting down from the 8 teams before eventually they transitioned to become what are now the Heroes. But the league was struggling at that time. And then came the 2006 World Baseball Classic, where they finished 3rd. And then came the 2008 Olympics, when they won the gold medal over Cuba. Yep. And then comes the 2009 WBC, in which they finished 2nd to Japan in extra innings. And then magically, after going through one of the lows of the KBO period, they expand. NC Dinos are given a team in 2011. They don't start until 2013. KT are awarded a team in 2013. They start in 2015. So with attendance records being broken the last 2 years in a row, perhaps, let's say, if Korea were to do decently or acceptably well in the World Baseball Classic in 26, could that lead to more expansion in the KBO in the near future? And if so, where might we see more teams?
Right. And so that is, I like how you brought that up of, 2006, 2008, 2009. That was like the peak of the golden age of Korean baseball. And what's great about that, and you kind of saw it with the 2002 World Cup Korea run, it got a 2002 World Cup that got young kids wanting to play soccer, right?
Yeah.
And so then you started to see an influx of increased better soccer players coming through down the line. 2006, 2008, 2009, that golden age of Korean baseball wanted kids to play more baseball. And so then, like you said, they've had kind of a lull there on the international stage, but now all the hype is back in the domestic league. What are they going to do on the international stage? If like you said, this is a big if to me, honestly. If they I don't think there's going to be a repeat of 2006, 2009 in this next upcoming WBC. But if they just have a valid showing, I think it's going to keep the fans being positive, and they're going to continue having success at the gate and at the box office. Now, if they do horrible, I think it's not going to hurt them in the near future, meaning this next season. If in the 2026 WBC, if they flame out and are like one of the worst teams in the WBC, I still don't think that's going to affect the 2026 KBO season. But down the road, it could affect them going, you know what? I don't have the eyes on me. I don't have the younger generation wanting to become these, like the golden generation was able to produce these younger players like Baek Kong. I just talked about him, but he was one of those golden era like results of what happened. He's what happened. And so are we going to have somebody like that come out of just an average showing? I don't know. I don't know, again, about you saying expansion. Hopefully the league is not going to that quite yet, just because we had all the uncertainties of the NC Dinos themselves as a team, as all the tragedy that happened, and then like all the scandals and everything that happened within the infrastructure of that stadium and the way they're working with Changwon City and all that. My worry is that I was a little hesitant going from 8 to 10 teams. And now if they would go to, and obviously they'd have to go into even teams, so they have to go 10 to 12. I just don't think the infrastructure as a whole is quite there yet. I know they're trying to build that up, but then the pool of players that they're at right now, it only weakens. The more people that you bring in, yes, it gives everybody more jobs, so that is a great thing, but it also weakens the pool of play. And so then what happens if you do that? The interest level might go down further because there's more errors, there's less quality pitching, less quality hitting. Are the fans going to want to watch that if we go to 12 teams? Probably not. And then you go back into this cycle again, which is the down years of the KBO, and then all of a sudden you get to build it back up. And then so I think they get to keep it there at 10 teams, and hopefully the NC Dinos are able to get something worked out so that they stay solid again, because they're always a fun team. But having I lived in the Jinhae area before the NC Dinos were there, and that was the Lotte Giant territory.
Yeah.
And now then NC came in, and I've not been back since, and it's kind of interesting to see that now all of a sudden if they struggle and they leave, I don't think the NC fans are going to follow them to whatever city they were to move to. We're just going to become Lotte Giant fans again. And Lotte Giants have been that region's historic team anyway. So it's kind of like, it's going to be interesting for that team specifically in that region as to what happens in the next few years. But I think this upcoming WBC, for the long term, if they have success, it's going to be great. If they don't have success, it's not going to hurt them in the short term. But in a couple years down the road, you may have less, prospects wanting to play baseball or such, and they turn into whatever the next, maybe the KBO all of a sudden gets their act together and they just start winning all these FIBA League basketball championships, and everybody's like, yes, that's where I want to be. I want to play basketball. Or you got the Asian Ice Hockey League, and they're like, that's what I want to be. I don't know, because like we mentioned before, Korea is a very trendy society. So what sport's going to be trendy next? For years, it was K-League. Then all of a sudden, KBO came in, and now Kovo,
figure skating.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to become trending next for the next trending sport, but baseball is always going to be there, and they just have to make sure that they stay there solidly as they can, versus going down into those when those Hyundai years around, I don't know if you went to any games down in Suwon. It was amazing. I went to a game down there to watch the Hyundai Unicorns, and I called it the library. It was empty, and now so I crack up when I watch the KT Wiz pack their park. Well, and I'm like, that is the same area, same stadium, and you're just going, man. When I was going down there through those last years, and it was sad because the Unicorns were a dynasty.
Yeah,
they
were
were
a good
incredible on field,
Yes.
and nobody cared. And just because there's so many other things that was affecting that popularity of the team at the time, but now it's just like I don't want to see the league have another Hyundai Unicorns situation. So my hope is that they just been like, yes, we had an all-time high, but we also got to think about the future and just keep it kind of solid as to where we are now.
There seems to be more people now than ever before coming to visit Korea to watch KBO baseball, or certainly, Korea's become such a tourist destination. And when those tourists come, there's so many of them that are like, hey, well, I'm a baseball fan. I hear, Korean baseball's such a good thing to do when you're in Korea. What's your advice for people that are baseball fans that are visiting Korea for them to truly gain an experience at a ballpark here? What would you say to them? Oh, well, definitely go to a game, obviously, but anything else that you could suggest to make their experience that much better?
Sure. Well, I will say up until the last couple of years, it's been easy to get a ticket for the most part, other than some of the big weekend games. But now it's kind of like, make sure before you go to a game, make sure you have ways that you know how to get a ticket. And unfortunately, some of these fans that are coming from abroad just think, hey, I can go on to Ticketmaster like here in the United States and just pop on and get a ticket, no problem. Unfortunately, it's not like that. If you don't have the Korean citizenship numbers and bank accounts, you're unable to do it. So you need to find a friend, a hotel worker, or I'll plug my site, MyKBO.net. Our Facebook group has wonderful fans, Korean fans that help out these tourists. And I know a few of them. I have them pinned at top of the Facebook page going, when people are like, how can I get tickets? And there's a couple guys that are like, I'll help you out. I'll get these tickets for you when you need them, and I'll transfer them over to you. Because up until the last couple of years, it was easy to just walk up and buy a ticket. Now it's become much harder, so I make sure you come over prepared on how to get your tickets and go to the game. Then once you get to the game, please enjoy not only the singing and the organized cheering, but enjoy the food. The fact that the food is so good, and not only enjoy the food, but at those prices. Oh my goodness. If you've gone to some Major League Baseball and minor league baseball, I go to my minor league baseball team here, and some of those, because they're a smaller team, they need to make more money. Some of those concessions are eye-popping for me. Like I said, I can get a hot dog cheaper at the Mariners game than I can at my local AAA baseball team, just simply because they have to make money. And so I enjoy the cheap food that's over there, enjoy the atmosphere. I love getting to a game early, enjoying the atmosphere outside the stadium, and then after the game, outside the stadium. Just join in. You may not have a favorite team playing. Just be a bandwagon and go, what team won? I'm going to go join their fans and join in the singing and cheering after the game. And they're maybe sitting outside at a tent there, drinking and eating and celebrating. Go join them. Have fun. Enjoy that atmosphere, because it is the closest that I can say here. You don't really have that here when you go to a Major League Baseball game. Game's over. You jump on the bus or train or jump in your car and go home. Most of the teams over in Korea are in major cities that have mass transportation that allows you to enjoy some adult beverages after the game and get home very easily. And so I would say, go do that. Go have a fun time. It is very inexpensive compared to probably what you're used to. Also, go buy some merchandise, because as fans have always contacted me going, how can I buy this team's gear? And unfortunately, Korea, the teams don't always make it easy to ship, whether it's anywhere in North America. It can cost a lot. So they're like, do I just go on eBay? And unfortunately, that's sometimes the best way to get it. And so get the gear while you can there. And the fact that KBO even opened up their own physical store there in Shinseodong was amazing to me. I think it's at like Office Max or something, which I thought was quite interesting. But they made that store there. And so go visit that store, get all the gear you can while you can, because once you come back to wherever you live, whether it's outside of Korea, you're probably not going to be able to get the gear as easily.
Yeah. One of the things that I always tell people to get the full experience is, if you can, like, I would pay the extra, even if I have to do it through a scalper, to try to sit in the fan zone closer to like the first base dugout or third base dugout
Yeah.
side, where you can be as low as possible, because the true experience with the KBO is the cheering. And
Yep.
they're constantly cheering throughout the at bats of the players on offense. And when you're sitting high up, I kind of compare it with stand up comedy. If you want to enjoy the atmosphere, you want to sit as close to the stage as possible, because everyone behind you, you hear them cheering and laughing forward. So the audio comes to you from the
Yep.
back. Whereas if you sit at the very, very top or very, very back, then everyone is cheering away from you. The sound and the ambience, the atmosphere is sort of going away so you don't really get that same experience in the higher zones as you would in the lower bowl. So I always say, try to sit in the lower bowl, try to sit closer to the fan zone where the cheerleaders are.
Yep.
And if you've never seen a cheerleader at a baseball park, and not just the cheerleaders in terms of the girls, like there's a cheer master, like a guy.
Oh, the cheer master,
yeah,
insane. Goes, I don't know how they have voices after the game and how they can even communicate, because they're just yelling and singing for 3.5 hours straight. And I'm like, these guys' voices are on point, because I don't know what they do when they're not doing that, because they probably just don't talk at all or something. But yeah, like you said, if you sit anywhere near that, if you're sensory, you probably want to bring some earplugs or something. So like at my older age, when I go back to these games, like I said, I haven't been to a game in 10 years, but if I were to go back, I am not sitting in that area just due to the fact that it is a lot of noise. But I would probably sit in like the barbecue zone or something. So like when I see like somebody like the Landers have like the barbecue zone and all these guys grilling out their samgyeopsal in the outfield, and you're just like, that is awesome. That is just like the fact that you can even have a grill at a stadium and nobody has to worry about it is awesome, because here in the United States,
do you have
can't
that?
bring in a grill. Yes, the Landers have a barbecue zone, or they did.
No,
they
in
had
North
one
America. In North America.
No, we don't. We're not allowed to bring in anything. I mean, the fact that you can bring in, like, I mean, you could have meat and live fire there. Really, it's amazing to us, like coming from the North American perspective, going, wow, they allow you to bring fire in.
I think now that it's provided now. There's
it's provided. Yeah, exactly.
You have
right, exactly.
And burner at a table that you rent. So during the baseball game, you have a table for 4 or 6 or 8, and there's a burner there for you to grill your own meat.
Yes, and that would never fly over here. That would never work, because who knows what the fans would be doing, starting fires. I have no idea, but I mean that would never work. So that's where I would be sitting, and that's an experience that I would sit. But I think like the fact that KBO is now at its height. And I love that. I kind of wish the Korean sports and cultural ministry would put a little more push onto the sports culture of Korea, not just the K-pop, K-movies, K-drama, K-food. Love all of that, but love sports more. So I think the fact that you can get people that don't even love sports go to a game. So like, I'm not a huge ice hockey fan. I'm sorry. I grew up in the United States. Not a huge, I know you grew up in Canada. Very big, just cultural differences. But the fact is, I would go to an ice hockey game in Korea just simply because it's a different sports culture. I would go to, I know they have team handball. I know Doosan like has a team handball team. I would go to a professional handball team. I know nothing about handball. I would just go to that for that sports culture. And so I wish the government would promote more, not just baseball, because I love all sports, but I mean, not just the baseball league, but just promote sporting culture as a tourist destination and make it easier. And I think they're starting to realize that it is getting popular and that they need to make more accessible ways. And I want to say, I think it was Chamshil that I read that one of the fans posted that they have an actual window for foreign fans that you can go to and kind of connect to them, so they actually hold some tickets back for non-Korean ID holding and non-Korean bank holding fans, that they can get tickets to some of these games. And so I think they're starting to realize, they're going, hey, we need to tap into this tourist market, because what happens if, our Korean market kind of withers away? We at least can keep bringing the tourists that are coming over for the K-pop, K-drama, and K-food. We might as well just add in Korean sports, K-sports. So I'm hoping we see more and more of that, not just with the baseball league, but every sports league there within Korea, and just see the popularity continue to grow and bring over tourists.
Danny, do you remember the moment or the game or the team experience that you had that made you want to start mykbo.net? Because I know you said that, well, it was for a lack of accessibility to information on the KBO, but there must have been a game that you went to or an experience that you had that made you fall in love with Korean baseball to go to that degree of, I want to start a website dedicated to help foreigners and English speakers to enjoy baseball. What was your memories that led to doing what you do?
Sure. I can't remember the exact date. So, like I said, I was adopted from Korea. Didn't know anything about Korean language, Korean culture until I decided one year that when I was in college in the United States, I said, I'm going to go study abroad. And I picked Yonsei University. They had an international program at the time. And I went to Yonsei. And it was not, I will admit, it's not the Yonsei that people think of when they say Yonsei. At the time, the Yonsei International Division was a very fun place to study. And by fun, we had a lot of fun outside of class. And one of those things was one of my friends goes, I just went to a baseball game. Do you want to join us? I said, sure. He's like, it's cheap. The alcohol's cheap. The food is cheap. Do you want to come? I was like, yeah, sure. I'm in college. I have no money. Let's go. We went out. We saw the Doosan Bears play. And I just remember, I couldn't tell you what game, what date, who they're playing, but I remember walking into Chamshel Stadium, listening to the fans sing, and then seeing Woods hit one of the longest home runs that I've seen hit. And I just go, this is awesome. The atmosphere is incredible. I need to come back. And so that's what made me. And then because at the time I was still learning how to read Korean, I couldn't even figure. I was like, like I had to ask my friend, like, when's the next game? How do I get to this game? Who are they playing? Who is this? What is this player? Who's that? Obviously, I didn't even know who Tyrone Woods was. I only found out later because, I was finally able to read his name. Udza. Oh, okay. Who is he? And obviously, internet's, we didn't have Google like we do now. And so it was definitely, that was the moment when I saw is fall 2000 that I go, okay, I need to start learning more about this league. I need to keep up with my Korean skills. So the fact is, Korean baseball and Korean sports has helped me continue learning Korean. I'm not fluent by any means, but I'm now able to read it and understand a lot better than I was 25 years ago. So, but baseball has been the backbone for that. And so that's the time and place that I can remember. And now fast forward to 25 years later, I'm just going, wow, this is amazing that people from outside Korea are contacting me going, what is this baseball league about? And I'm like, yeah, this is awesome that you even know about it because I didn't know about it back then. And so I'm glad that you contacted me. You want to learn more about Korean baseball. Here's some websites that you can go to, or here's people that you can connect to that can get you some tickets and stuff like that. So I think it's awesome. I love it. I love being just a fan and promoting Korean baseball and Korean baseball organization and the culture itself.
One of the places that you've had an opportunity to promote and talk about the KBO was on ESPN during the COVID-19 pandemic. What was it like appearing on ESPN of all places, and how did all that go down? What was that like?
Sure. So I went to school as for broadcasting. So I did radio rather than TV because to me, I didn't want to be shown on on air. And so, but my dream was to always be in sports, be involved in sports. So I did radio DJing instead. So I did like country radio, pop radio, all types of radio for a couple years there. And that's where, I pretty much was in my broadcasting career. But obviously working for ESPN was my dream, or working something similar to that was what I wanted to do. So then fast forward, 2020 happens, pandemic happens, Korea gets the contract with ESPN. ESPN reaches out to me and says, do you want to appear? And I'm like, yeah, of course. That is amazing. But then at the time, I am freaking out because it is like the day of my appearance, I was so nervous, messaging people. I was like, I don't even know what they wanted. Like, I don't know. And again, it's technology. It was via FaceTime. And so I'm like freaking out going, I don't even, what are we going to do? I don't know what to do. I'm so nervous. And then I remember just going like blanking out, going, I'm talking to Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez, and I'm on ESPN, and I know it was middle of the night, and maybe there might have been a handful of people watching, but to me, that made my ultimate dream of being in sports, being on ESPN. Now, like, I can forever say, like, if I never appear on there again, which I don't think I will, unless for someone there's another pandemic, my dream of when I was a little kid wanted to be in sports broadcasting was achieved. And so I was lucky enough to appear on few more broadcasts that season, and just the fact then that it was Korean baseball who for 20 years I had been doing it. Nobody really Korean baseball here or there, but then all of a sudden that year it's just like everybody wanted to know about Korean baseball, and so it was just an amazing. And I mean, I still picture myself 5 years later now going, wow, that really happened. I can't imagine that was ever going to happen when I started out.
Yeah, well, great. Well, certainly appreciate your time. Is there anything that you want to promote? Anything else that you're doing that you want to give a mention to? Of course, just mykbo.net, as well as the Facebook group of mykbo.net. But anything else that you've got going?
Sure. Yes. Well, since you're letting me plug it, no, I will. I will always say, please continue following the KBO, whether you use mykbo.net, whether you go to Fangraphs, whether there's a bunch of social media now. This is what's amazing to me. They're like, are you upset? I was like, why would I ever be? My whole goal was to get more than me promoting Korean baseball. So please follow anybody you can, learn more about Korean baseball. It is incredible. It helps you. But yes, I also am trying to have something called Yaguwear, YAGUWEAR.com. It is my fledgling Korean relevant, baseball relevant clothing wear site, and with unofficial, because due to copyright, we had some issues there with some copyright stuff there that, so we have some teams on there. They're known as the, Daegu Lions. They're known as the Daejeon Eagles, which is, they're not actually known as that because they're the Hanwha Eagles and the Samsung Lions, stuff like that. But we have some different apparel on there, and I'm trying to work with that. But now with no longer in broadcasting, I decided to put my teaching degree to use. So this last year I've been teaching. I'm a substitute teacher now for my kids' school. So all this stuff with KBO, I am trying to continue to do that. And now my other stuff like the Yaguwear is kind of on a back burner right now. But yes, I am trying to continue this next year to get right back into KBO and see where it leads us. So I'm excited for the WBC. Like I said, I'm excited for this upcoming weekend versus the games versus Japan.
Wonderful. Danny, thank you so much for your time. I will put all of your information, anything that you want to promote for a link, I'll leave that in the descriptions below. So if you'd like to visit any of the stuff that Danny is working with, promoting, feel free to check in the descriptions below, and you'll see links to everything that he does there. Once again, Korean baseball has been taking off as of late. It's doing so much. It's receiving a lot of attention, and we're probably going to see many more Koreans in Major League Baseball, as well as former KBO players that have come over for a cup of coffee, heading on their way back to MLB. So look for them. Once again, I want to thank Danny so much for joining us today. And remember, if you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel so you're up to date the next time we post another interview up here. Thank you very much.